Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Michelle Nelson, and I'm the social media content specialist here at Field Routes. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to join us for Techs and Trucks, Protecting Your Biggest Assets, featuring our partner, Matt Curtis, Director of Partnerships with Azuga, a Bridgestone company. Before we get started, though, I'll give you a little bit of background on him. Matt Curtis is the Director of Partnerships with Azuga, a leading globally connected vehicle platform helping customers turn data from vehicles and drivers into intelligence that improves operations and safety while reducing cost and risk. The company provides innovative end-to-end fleet solutions through an integrated approach of hardware technology, fleet management applications, driver gamification, video telematics, and data analytics. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate all the help you've given me in the last week or so, and everyone that took the time to log in. Pretty excited about this topic, so I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Can you hear me clearly? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so just a little bit about me, not the corporate sound, but the reality is I've been in location-based services for over 17 years now, and most of that has been within the telematics industry. And my passion is to really work with complementary solution providers, companies like ServiceTitan and Field Routes, where building an integration or using our technologies together complement to build a little bit more customer value, make it a little bit easier for them to use, and honestly just differentiate what we do without all the other solutions out there on the market. Well over a decade ago, when GPS was relatively new and pretty rudimentary. So I've been in the industry for a long time, and GPS really was more of a spy in your guy, big brother, punitive usage of the technology, and that was okay for back then. The technology really didn't accommodate some of the advancements that it's evolved over the last decade. And as the technology has evolved, businesses have become more sophisticated, and just the changing demographics of the workforce, there's less benefit to the spy in your guy as opposed to helping your employees be safer while they're on the road. So when businesses can implement this technology elegantly and using more advanced features and functions, they get a lot more value out of it. So a little bit about Azuga. We're based here in California, been in business for about 12 years now. We were acquired by Bridgestone about a year and a half ago, the tire company Bridgestone. So they basically had an evil plan of purchasing a telematics company to help drive SMB commercial vehicles to their thousands of service locations to go buy tires and services, because we have that visibility in terms of the health of the vehicle. We have about 9,000 customers here in North America. We're very highly focused on field service companies, where it's not about the person driving the vehicle. It's about getting a technician to the right place at the right time, safely and efficiently. Field service is a big market for us, and for reasons I'm not 100% sure of, except for the fact that there's a strong safety culture in a lot of pest control companies. This really has been our most successful market to date. So at the core of what Azuga does is vehicle tracking, safety cameras, vehicle IoT, be able to monitor the safety of that vehicle, the utilization, the health, location, just overall utilization of that vehicle. And we're very driver-centric. We were the first and still the only company that has a true end-to-end gamification and rewards platform. The theory is if you can enable your employees with the information of how they are driving their vehicle and how they are doing in comparison with their peers, that they will have a healthy competition. They'll improve how they drive, which will, and in fact, just improve the overall safety of the company and just to kind of have a more positive satisfaction and retention aspect of the business. I'm sure there's other things I wanted to talk about, but I think we wanted to pause for a second. We had a polling question. Thought we'd take a second here. Now, this is specific to the conversation at hand, kind of my thesis about difficulties businesses are having. And as a frame of reference, most of what I've learned from companies like yourself that have had these problems, that have shared some of their trials and tribulations. Oh, it says I can't vote. Darn. Interesting. I thought I'd get a higher percentage on the maintaining techs. Well, maybe I'll gear my presentation a little bit differently. Okay, thank you. That's actually pretty interesting. Did everyone get to see that on the audience? Okay, so really the techs, or excuse me, the acquiring and maintaining trucks is by far the highest. I think that's going to become less of an issue as we go forward, as I see the price of vehicles coming down. As let me see here. All right, so here's my basic outline of the challenges and the associated solutions that are widely available today. So acquiring and retaining trucks. We're going to dig into a little bit of that. Then recruiting and retaining technicians. It's similar to the issues with trucks. It's been really exacerbated by the global pandemic, but there has been a long-term demographic trend on the labor market and the associated demand. And lastly, what I kind of call the balancing the existential conflict between safety and efficiency, keeping everyone safe on the road and driving perfectly versus getting stuff done, getting as many jobs done. And that's a balancing act that a lot of businesses really struggle with. And then there are solutions on the market, whether it's from Azuga or from other vendors out there, to help you optimize the number of miles you can get from your truck, minimizing the unplanned downtime, and also the safety aspects of optimizing your maintenance that we'll talk about. And again, there are tools available today from both a vehicle IoT as well as safety camera perspective that can help address all of the issues here, all the challenges that our customers face. And then lastly, you'll hear the term from me probably 2 or 3 times about incentives driving behavior. If you incent them correctly, you can achieve some pretty significant business results and kind of kill a couple birds. So you may hear me repeat some things because a lot of these issues are just interconnected. Okay, so the main challenge that I guess we're going to talk about in this presentation is the acquiring and maintaining trucks. The real issue started about 3 years ago from this little global pandemic that we had that just wreaked havoc on the global supply chain for automotive accessories. It really exposed how interconnected our world has become through globalization, and the ripple effect from missing one little chip or one little part will prevent that vehicle from actually being delivered to the lots. We've all seen the empty lots. We've heard the stories about the huge markup of MSRPs of months or unknown amount of time before you can purchase those trucks. And this has had a cascading effect in the market down to the OEM parts to fix and maintain those vehicles that you're having to run longer. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about the labor shortage for your industry, but that the same macroeconomic issues are affecting the repair centers, getting techs to show up to those bays, to turn those wrenches, to change those tires, to get those oil changes. Those are all cascading problems. So what is that doing? It's forcing customers to work with what they have. God forbid, if you want to grow your business, you want to add more trucks, hire more people, just maintaining what you have has become a challenge, because as those vehicles, get longer and longer in the tooth, they're going to require more repairs. And it's just the nature of your business. You get paid when your techs drive to locations and do work. So you put a lot of miles in those vehicles every single day. And something I've heard from time and time again from customers is getting their technicians to help them with the maintenance aspect of it or reducing costs. It's a real struggle. So it's not their cost of fuel. It's not their tire expenses. They are not responsible for any of those things. So we are going to talk about incentives driving behavior, but this is an area that I don't have a great solution for you. So as your vehicles get older, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to the health of your vehicle and making sure those diagnostic trouble codes are paid attention to. Because if they're not, you're going to have catastrophic engine failure that you were not expecting at all. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So some of the challenges of extending the life of your vehicles are really about efficiency. So those vehicles, a vehicle that is under warranty, that has 50,000 miles before you have to do X, as those vehicles get older and longer in the tooth, you're going to spend more money on changing those brakes, on having a transmission serviced or repaired, drivetrain, etc. So as those vehicles get older and they break down more, you're going to have these unexpected downtimes that you didn't have when you had relatively new vehicles that you would sunset at scheduled times. And lastly, fuel economy. There's a little quote here that I pulled a couple days ago from Automotive Fleet, that proper maintenance of those older vehicles can improve your fuel economy by as much as 40%. So ipso facto, for those vehicles that you're just doing reactive maintenance, doing just bare bones, you're probably spending a lot more on fuel, and you could save that by just doing the right thing and taking care of your vehicle. And then lastly, I mentioned this, I referenced this, the unscheduled downtime. It's not about just the truck not being available. It's that cascading effect of, I had a tech that was going to do these jobs and go visit these customers. Now he can't do that for a myriad of reasons. Now he's calling the office staff. They may have to reschedule someone else. The job's not getting done. It just can wreak havoc on businesses depending on what type of work that technician is doing. And obviously I work for a tire company. I've learned quite a bit over the last year and a half about the importance of proper tire management. And you'll see a little quote here below from that same Automotive Fleet. You can save up to 3% on your gas mileage just by making sure you have the right air in the tire. And there are other effects that we'll talk about too as we go on. And lastly, safety. You're gonna be surprised by this, but older vehicles do not perform as well as new vehicles. Go take a brand new Ford Ranger and then go take that same vehicle that's 5 years old and has 100,000 miles and see which one performs better, which one takes the turns better, which one stops on a dime. So that's something to take into consideration when someone else is driving your vehicle that may have 500 pounds of extra equipment on the back. It's not performing like the new vehicle they drive at home. So clearly driving performance is affected by a lot of factors. So making sure that the brake wear, the tread, the over and under inflation, even fluid levels can all have an effect on safety. This is a really interesting topic. I'm not sure how many of you care about it based on those polling answers, but I'm going to go through it anyways. The challenges of recruiting and retaining techs. I would argue that what I've seen from customers, that the global pandemic definitely had an effect on it, but it has been a long-term trend for a long time. I think there were some pretty perverse incentives for people not to work. There were people changing jobs, having existential threats or questions about what they want to do in life. And frankly, the demand has surpassed the supply. I pulled this little article this morning. Actually, it's from yesterday's report about really, these are macro demographic issues throughout the Western world. We're having less kids. Older people are retiring, and the article basically says we're having a job rebound, second best record in terms of raw job growth, and the number of people available to work remains substantially smaller. And this is a structural labor shortage. And as the fewer people are working, and we cannot grow the market as fast as we'd like because not enough people are showing up to these job interviews. So that's on the macro level. But also you are competing for employees within your market. That means you've got competitors that are also going to be trying to steal your employees. You may be able to, you're looking for employees and so are they. So a challenge that we've seen is your reputation can predict how often someone's going to want to apply for a job at your company. So that big brother GPS utilization that I referenced from a decade ago that still lingers today, I would say the juice is not worth the squeeze by using a punitive effect. Punitively, it's more about employees are expecting more from employers. So some of the solutions that I'm going to suggest, I just want you to take that into consideration when you think about how you might have used GPS in the past. So again, kind of on the fly, I was looking at the pest control company that I use here in the Bay Area. I went to their job site and I pulled this off yesterday, and I thought it was really telling. Training pay. I'm assuming this is for someone that could be coming out of high school at $22 an hour. I'm not going to age myself, but many years ago, I graduated from a very nice university with a nice sociology degree. And coming into the Bay Area in the .com times, well, I guess I just aged myself. I was making $14 an hour after 4 years education. So again, macroeconomic. I don't think our country and our high school system does a good job at all of driving people towards alternative career paths. Clearly, you can go get a loan to a 4-year college and settle yourself from debt. But what if you want to go make some good money now and build a career doing something else? We don't do a great job. That's my Mike Rowe hat on. But then you come down to the annual earnings, $70,000 to $100,000. Clearly, there is a dearth of candidates showing up if they're willing to pay someone that good of money. That's great. I love the benefits. So again, employees are expecting more. I don't think 20 years ago, there were a lot of 401k benefits for a technician. If I'm wrong, I want to know, so please let me know. My favorite bullet point was company issued vehicle and gas card. Take your company car home with you. If ever there was a need for a telematics solution to make sure that vehicles are being used as they should be responsibly, that's a very telling sign. Okay, I'm rambling on here. So challenges. So balancing that behavior between driving metrics, meaning safe driving, and job requirements, meaning visiting as many customers and getting as many jobs done as possible. There's going to be a balance. This isn't driving like grandma necessarily, because perfect driving equals slow driving, and aggressive driving equals getting stuff done. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the solutions aspect of this. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the biggest risk to your business are when your employees are driving your beautifully wrapped truck down the road. If some chemical usage, educate me at the end of this. And again, my belief is that $70,000 to $100,000 range is affected to some degree, if not a significant degree, by how aggressive they are getting from job to job. So balancing your interests in terms of cost, health, liability, and a technician's responsibility to do their job to earn them a good amount of money, but also not have so many accidents and tickets that his motor vehicle record is dinged so badly that he loses his license and his inability to work for you. And lastly, I don't know about the industry, but we call accidents that we see videos of and that result in $1 million, $500,000, $1 million plus verdicts. We call them nuclear verdicts, because your logo, your vehicle looks quite different than the consumer vehicle driving down the road. You got your beautiful logo wrapped around a very good looking vehicle. Typically, it's driving down the road 2-3 hours a day, and it screams, I definitively have commercial auto insurance of $1 million or more. And it's just a good invitation for nefarious individuals that see that as a opportunity to make some money. And we found, I think there's some third-party statistics, that 70% of all accidents, vehicles driven by commercial drivers, are not the fault of the commercial driver. But pretty much every one of those accidents, there's a lawsuit against that company. Beautiful logo, driven by someone that doesn't own that vehicle, isn't responsible for that insurance. It is a huge liability. And from an auto insurance rate, so Azuga is the largest vendor for the insurance industry. We have close to 80 insurance partners that utilize our data and video in some instances. And over the last 12 years, net, commercial auto insurance providers have lost money. They're printing money like crazy on the consumer side, but on a business perspective, they are not. And there's a little quote here about, in just the second quarter of last year, insurance premiums grew by 7%, 19 executive quarters of premium increases. So you're feeling the pain here, and your premiums are really based on your risk profile. Okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap up on the solution side. So from a vehicle maintenance management perspective, how you maintain your vehicle will affect your operating costs and the safety of those vehicles. I spent probably too much talking about that on the challenges. So from a kind of a duh perspective, if you're able to efficiently, effectively create a proactive maintenance management environment where you're monitoring every aspect of what's going on. So it's a combination of how the vehicles are being driven, because the vehicle that is driven, what I'll call aggressively, harshly, if you have tech that is racing from light to light, taking sharp turns, slamming the brakes on, they are exponentially going to wear out and abuse those tires, the brakes, the suspension. And obviously there's more risk of accident, but just from a maintenance perspective, that vehicle requires more maintenance than one that is driven very conservatively. And you want to be monitoring the mileage, because mileage is going to dictate so much of the maintenance that you do on your vehicle, your oil changes, your tire rotations, etc. So that's an important, simple metric. But you can also monitor, tire utilization in terms of the pressure that we talked about, or that I'm going to talk about in a second here, and the fuel utilization. As you saw a moment ago, 40% fuel improvements can be seen by properly maintained vehicles. So a lot of this stuff almost pays for itself. I don't want to be too dramatic here. So it's all about shifting from proactive to reactive. A lot of companies just look for that little sticker from Jiffy Lube and wait for the tech to say, or someone to monitor that thing manually, oh, we're about due for an oil change. That's not the same as having a plan for all of your vehicles, for all the maintenance aspects of every one of your vehicles, to have a plan and a schedule in place. Great, this vehicle is coming up 500 miles and needs this service. Well, I drive about this many miles a day. On Friday, we're going to schedule this vehicle to get these services done. We're going to get a record of it. We're going to keep that. So a basic digital maintenance management solution, whether you use one from your fleet management company like Azuga, or you get a more advanced one like a Fleetio or an AutoSys that can do a few more things for you in terms of maintaining all aspects of your fleet, whether it's your insurance, your MVRs, everything. You can keep all that in one system. But at the very least, having something where you can create work orders that are driven by the miles on the vehicle, diagnostic trouble codes, the length between service reminders, and then alerts and reminders for everyone in that value chain that cares about this, from the mechanic to the ops manager to the business owner or the person paying the bills, to have visibility in what's happening and have a schedule for that to make sure that it is happening when it needs to happen. And lastly, keep the service records. It will help you when you're ready to sell that vehicle. And you'll just make sure you don't do work you don't need to do. I've heard too many companies say, well, we get the oil change on this schedule. We don't have the paperwork. Let's just do an oil change on that vehicle. And you find out that it just had one a couple of weeks ago. So it's wasted $100. So like I mentioned earlier, work for a tire company. I've learned probably more about tires than I care to know. And rather than bore you with me describing it, I'm going to take under 2 minutes to play a little vid and give myself a chance to get some water.
How many vehicles does your business depend on? And do you know if they're all running efficiently? Do you even have time to keep track? At Azuga, we'd like to help you solve those problems. One way we can do this is by keeping better tabs on your tires to help improve safety, increase efficiency, and save you time and money, allowing you to focus on running your business. Through Azuga's integration with Bridgestone, we're able to augment your existing fleet management system with the power of tire analytics, with no additional hardware required. Azuga can now help detect slow leaks and quickly identify tire pressure issues before they become a bigger problem, helping to keep the vehicle safely on the road, earning money and potentially avoiding more costly repair scenarios. Did you know that tire underinflation can have a big impact on a vehicle's fuel efficiency? Multiply that by 5 vehicles, 10, maybe 25 or more, and those tires that are underinflated by just 5 psi can reduce a vehicle's fuel economy by 3% or more. Only 3%? That doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But let's use a full-size pickup as an example. 1% could mean about $160 in extra fuel costs annually. That's about $160 per vehicle. Multiply that by all your business's vehicles, and we're talking hundreds to thousands of dollars lost due to underinflated tires. And that's just money saved. What about safety? According to NHTSA, vehicles driving on underinflated tires are 3 times more likely to be involved in a crash compared to vehicles with proper inflation. If you're looking for solutions that can help streamline operations without any additional hardware, while also helping to enhance safety and fuel efficiency, contact Azuga to see about adding our tire pressure management to your fleet management subscription.
Yeah, that does a better job than me trying to explain it. So basically, you can save a few percent on your fuel by making sure that's properly inflated. And at this point in 2023, you don't necessarily have to go out there with a gauge to check it. Most vehicles will provide some of that information on the dash. We were probably the first priority that Bridgestone had for Azuga was to take our little green device that we plug into vehicles and pull that data out. So you can actually get that through our platform. And I think the more interestingly enough is the safety aspects of this, and that, underinflated tires and also overinflated tires have a much higher propensity of not stopping as performant as they should and causing accidents. So when we talk about acquiring and maintaining trucks, just by having the right tire pressure, you could prevent accidents. They take your vehicles off the road. Okay, so I'm going to move on to incentives driving behavior. I've been thinking a lot about this lately when it comes to how you can incent them to do the right thing for the business. So it really comes down to, do you have a safety culture inside your company? Are you fostering one? Because I think this is a good portion of how you can control your destiny. And I think it comes down to what policies you have in place for when your techs are behind the wheel for a couple hours a day. Do you have a cell phone policy? Well, when I talk to smaller businesses, oftentimes they don't. They kind of believe, well, they have their bring your own device mentality. So it's the tech's phone, even if they're subsidizing or paying for it. Larger companies really mainly provide work devices for their employees. They'll typically use a mobile device manager so they can control the apps that are on the device. And I'd say the most safety conscious companies will use some solution like a lifesaver, where they can lock down features and functions when the tech is behind the wheel to literally block out the screen. They may just allow, say, a navigation app to work. So there are ways of both putting a policy in place and enforcing them. The next item I have here of eating, drinking, smoking. Smoking is less of an issue, although I do see videos every once in a while. But eating and drinking, if you don't have an explicit policy in place, I highly suggest you do that. It's not very professional to see someone driving down the road drinking at McDonald's, but more importantly, when they're physically interacting with food and drink, it increases their chances of an accident almost as much as using a cell phone does. So start with the policy, and the next step I'll talk to you about monitoring it. The last one, seatbelts and backup parking. Most people aren't familiar with what backup parking is, so I'll talk about it for a moment for those that you do not. But seatbelts are interesting that so many people are still not using seatbelts. And over the last decade, we've done some studies, and we've seen that anecdotal studies at best, that the most performing technicians, the ones that are the Superman superheroes, are the ones that are least likely to be wearing a seatbelt. When we look at those, the reports that show who's using them, it's amazing. They think they can get away with everything and anything until they have an accident, and then they are the biggest risks for a company of having an accident with no seatbelt. That's how you see the fatal accidents. So ensuring you have a seatbelt policy in place. So backup driving, about it's either 29 or 30% of all accidents take place in parking lots, and you can, for free, mitigate that substantially by encouraging, educating your employees that simply backing into a parking spot, so when they start that car and they leave, they are going to reduce their chances of an accident. I don't remember the percentages, but it's very, very significant. And lastly, incentives driving behavior. When you have these policies in place, when you're educating your employees that you are trying to have the safest, most efficient business in the market, you care about their safety. You don't want them getting in an accident. You do not want them getting a ticket and hurting their license. That also affects their own personal insurance. That you're doing all these things with basically a strategy in place. You want to minimize downtime of the vehicles, so use them properly. You want to incent them not to be driving so aggressively that they are hurting your vehicles, causing undue liability that you just don't need, but also encouraging them to get to the right place at the right time. There's a big difference between maybe speeding a couple miles over the limit versus eating, drinking, smoking, texting on the phone. That is not going to help them get there faster. So you have to differentiate when you're talking about efficiency versus just safety. And rewards matter. So would you rather spend X number of dollars on paying your employees to do the right thing and avoid spending 2, 3, 5X on more tires, brakes, unexpected breakdowns, unexpected accidents? So we found that it's less about the monetary value of what you may be giving away. It may be something as little as $5 or $10 at the end of the week for whomever has the best driving score. Maybe it's $5 who made the best improvement. At the end of the quarter, have a pizza party if everyone has a score above X. You can chop this thing so many different ways. I'm not going to prescribe to a group of people that are in different markets of different sizes. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, we can go down that rabbit hole. It's very interesting, but it's more about fostering a culture where your employees are competing with each other in a healthy, fun, kind of gamified way, and then get rewarded for it. So again, I could talk about this for longer than anyone wants to hear me, but just consider that positive reward system that you can create within your company I think it also feeds into, as I say here, additional recruiting tool. If every dollar you're giving them is one more dollar they're earning working for you, it's a retention tool. And lastly, I want to talk about minimizing liability through the video telematics. So it's hard to manage what you're not monitoring. A majority of all the videos that are created in our system are not from accidents. That's a very small percentage. Most videos are created from the harsh braking or the driver behavior. And depending on what policies you have in place, the AI cameras that are available today that are monitoring things like distracted driving, smoking, phone usage, drinking, all those seat belts, all those things are managed and visible through an AI camera that can cause these camera events. So rather than just waiting for the accident to happen, knowing that you've got certain employees that are not following your policy, use these as a coachable offense. Again, I please do not use this as a big brother, you're in trouble. This is not our policy. We are trying to keep you safe on the road and our business in a going concern. We do not need to have one more accident that affects the entire fleet of vehicles in terms of their automotive insurance rates or losing those rates. We have customers that we need to service. So if you're doing things outside of our policy, this is a coaching event. I don't know if any of you ever went to driving school, but having to watch coaching videos and watch your videos can be a real incentive not to do that silly behavior that they know they're doing wrong. So if you put it in terms of it's a safety culture, and oh, by the way, it's affecting your ability to win those rewards, you can see a lot of behavior improved. And as a sociology major, I can tell you that the observer effect is real. You put that camera in there and it makes everything a little bit more real for your tech driving that vehicle down the road. There's a stress of driving down the road and dealing with traffic and the balancing act of the office calling them. But at the end of the day, they need to make sure that they are eyes on the road, following the best practices so you can minimize the number of accidents you have. So those videos are really there to protect you and your business. And I encourage everyone here, if they haven't done so already, to talk with their insurance agent, talk with them about what incentives they have, how they might be able to help pay for some of the costs, because plenty of them want you to have a solution in there because it's in their best interest too. Okay, before I pontificate too much, I'm going to show you a little video here. It's a little loop. You'll see it a couple times. I just pulled this one. I like this one because if you didn't have this video, it just looks like two dudes driving down the road crashing into a pole. But really, it's someone driving where they shouldn't be driving down the middle of the street. And with this evidence here, they can show their boss, we were just avoiding a head-on collision. And oh, by the way, in the 1080p video, you actually have a license plate, so you can go track that person down. So without the video, it's kind of hard to argue their case without just having a trust factor. So your logo is an invitation. 70% of all commercial accidents are not the fault of the driver of that vehicle, of the commercial vehicle. Without the video evidence, good luck. So it's not a matter of if you're going to have an accident, it's when you're going to have an accident, what your liability is, and how many you're going to have. And in my experience, we have really two types of customers: the customers that choose telematics and safety cameras, and those that just buy the telematics and then come back saying, I had an accident or I had too many accidents. I wish I would have listened to the sales guy when he tried to sell me a safety camera. I never hear customers saying, either when it comes to rewards or cameras, I've got a rewards program, doesn't really work, does nothing for me. You don't hear, I bought cameras, I don't use cameras. So just something to take into consideration. And just to summarize, so there are tools available today that help you keep your tech safe, keep them more efficient, and that has a downstream effect on how your vehicles are utilized. The same set of tools will help you with maintaining the health, monitoring the health of your vehicle, and maintaining that schedule to keep them, to maximize the utility of those vehicles and to minimize the unplanned downtime, and also keep them a little more safe to avoid accidents. And it's way easier to retain the technicians that you've recruited and trained or on, doing their jobs than it is to have a higher turnover. So reward them. They're doing a good job. Pay them for it. That's the thesis here. Hoping there's a couple questions that come through. I'm hoping this will be a discussion at the end, because I feel like I can probably learn more from you than you from me.
Well, we thank you so much for that helpful information, Matt. And I am guessing that our audience does have some questions for you. So, everyone, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and submit any questions you have using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. He'll answer as many questions as possible in the time that we have left. While you're doing that, I'll ask that Lynn, our moderator, post a link in the chat to sign up for a free demo of Field Routes. For anyone who is not already a Field Routes customer, this is a great opportunity to experience our operations and our marketing suites firsthand. She's also going to post a link in the chat to get more information about Azuga. All right, our first question is, let me take a look here. When evaluating telematics solutions, what should I be looking for?
Well, I'm very biased in that I run partnerships. I care about integrations, but I would say removing that as a question. Oh, just ease of use. Does it work with all of my vehicles? Is it going to allow me to grow? There are a good 100+ solutions in the market. I'd say there's a solid good 10 out there, and maybe half those have good camera solutions. So I would say make sure, even if you're just starting with a basic system, make sure that you have the option to upgrade. And then, all right, I'm going to come back to it. Integration with the software that you use to run your business, whether it's a field routes or a maintenance management solution, or if you're using an ERP, our best customers are using 3 or 4 integrations. So starting with the one that you use to run your business, it should be integrated.
Awesome. Speaking to that, will the Azuga software work with my Field Route software?
It will. It doesn't today, but it will. So Azuga has a strategic partnership with Service Titan. We are highly integrated with Service Titan, with the other software company that Service Titan bought, Spire, and we are actively in discussions with the Field Routes development team about what makes most sense. I think we actually have started some development work. I would love to talk with any Field Routes customers about specifically what they want. We have some basic integration points that are obvious, but anyone out there using Field Routes, please reach out to me, mattc@azuga.com. The more feedback I have, the better use of our resources to launch that first and second phase integration.
Awesome. Our next question. As a Bridgestone company, could I purchase tires through Azuga for a discount?
Ooh, I forgot to point out I keep forgetting that. So yes, we actually have a national account program for all of our Azuga customers. I forgot the exact terminology, but essentially our customers get the same discount that the national account customers that have a minimum of, I think, 500 vehicles. So it's a pretty good discount. I know for myself, I just saved $461 on my tires 2 weeks ago. So tires are very expensive. So you need to get a discount somewhere. So same thing with the Firestone locations too. So I took both my vehicles locally to the Firestone location and got them serviced. So they have 2,500 locations around the country, another 4,500 dealers. So there's a nice big fat network out there.
Wonderful. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. We want to thank you again, Matt, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I encourage anyone to send me emails. If I said something wrong that you disagree with, I want to hear about it.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. We hope that you found this valuable. Remember to watch your inbox and social media feeds for information on our upcoming growth and tips and tricks series webinars. Everyone have a great day.